Hi, everyone. My name is Kat Hauser, and I'm going to be talking about my internship, empirically exploring naturally mimicking hybrid reef solutions. And this was done with Fragments of Hope and the University of South Florida under the Strong Coast Project. So this was about exploring hybrid reef solutions in Belize. And the reason we're doing this is because Belize has lost roughly half of its reef over the last 20 years. There's been heat stress, there's been bleaching events and disease, and all of them are projected to continue. And when you lose the reef, you're losing more than just the reef ecosystem. You're also more prone to erosion because you no longer have that shoreline protection from the reef. You're more prone to flooding and property damage. You have fewer fish because you have fewer habitat for the fish, and you also have fewer tourism sites. So all of this has created a loss of ecosystem services, and hybrid reefs are a way to potentially mitigate some of that loss. So we're defining hybrid reefs as a human-made structure with a natural component. This could be a concrete structure with coral growing on it, for example. And this slide shows a few examples of what that can look like. So we know that hybrid reefs might not be right for every community, but we wanted to present this as an option for Key Caulker and Belize and ask, do you think hybrid reefs are right for the Key Caulker community? And if so, where would you put this solution? Where would you put a hybrid structure? And essentially, we're asking this because where you put a hybrid reef really dictates the ecosystem service that you could gain from it. So in this workshop, we had maps of Key Caulker and we had color-coded pins shown in the table on this slide. And for example, green represented tourism. And we asked the workshop participants, which included local stakeholders, fishermen, tour guides, members of the local government, and members of the Belize Fishery Department. And we asked them to place a pin where they felt that this ecosystem service could be gained from putting a hybrid reef in this spot. So you can see on the map a combination of everyone's answers. And we ran a hotspot analysis, which essentially just tells us, okay, where were places that were highly discussed or where were a lot of pins placed? And this didn't take into account the different colors of the pins or any other information, but just to get a sense of, are there any places that were highly discussed as a potential site for a hybrid reef. So you can see that there were a couple of sites, but this doesn't tell the full story. So we also did an analysis to see how far each of these pins were from shore, and then we broke it down into each service, and we can really see several peaks that popped up from this analysis. For example, for tourism in green, you can see that there's a peak closer to shore, which really represented the information about if there's a hybrid reef close to shore, tourists could swim out to it and take a look at it, and it might provide ecosystem services there, versus if it was a little further from shore, it might be more of a dive site or a snorkeling site that tourists would get on a boat and go over to look at. Same thing for commercial fishing and tourism fishing. You see these peaks that are inside the barrier reef and then another peak outside the barrier reef. And then there's also peaks for flood mitigation and lobster fishing as well. And this was really to get a sense of, if we don't have an exact location, could we put it a certain distance and expect to hopefully see this ecosystem service? So we got a lot of information from this workshop, and really what we learned is the community is interested in hybrid reefs, and they're interested in multiple different ecosystem services that could potentially be gained from a hybrid reef solution. So to analyze the results, we created a story map and also a public facing report. We've shared both with the Belize Fisheries Department so they can see what we've learned, and then we're also circulating it through the community as well. And then we also realized that beyond this internship, we'll need some follow-up workshops, and those are planned for September 2026 and October 2026. So lastly, just want to say a big thank you to my mentors, Ali Cancino from Fragments of Hope and Alex Webb from USF, my advisors, all the workshop participants, the Strong Coast projects, and BU Urban program, and Emily. Thank you.